Hi, my name is Siavash Irani. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect with the AWS team. And in this video, you will see how to run Hyper-V on Amazon EC2 bare metal instances. Let me show you how to do it. We are going to cover overview of Windows and Amazon EC2 bare metal, things to note when installing Hyper-V on EC2 bare metal, and at the end, we will have a demo on how this is done. With bare metal, EC2 instance can directly access the processor and memory resources of underlying server. As you see in this diagram, you can now launch Windows directly on the hardware. That means there will be no virtualization in place, and CPU virtualization technologies like Intel VT will be available to Windows directly. On bare metal hosts, there is a card called Nitro card, which allows the instance to access EBS storage and also other AWS services like VPC, EC2 network, IAM, and etc. But how does Windows access storage and network? For network, Windows uses ENA driver, which allows the instance to have network connectivity to all other AWS resources and internet. For storage, Windows uses NVMe driver, which allows it to connect to both EBS and local storage. For the demo, I'm going to use pre-configured Hyper-V AMIs. These are Amazon-owned public AMIs, which have Hyper-V role already enabled on them. They come into 2012 R2 and 2016. Alternatively, I can just grab a base Amazon public AMI and then enable Hyper-V role on it. There are two important things to note when launching Hyper-V on EC2 bare metal. First thing is that Hyper-V external vSwitch is not going to work for guest VMs because the source MAC address of those VMs will not be valid in VPC network, and as a result, those packets will drop. That's why we need to create an internal vSwitch which allows the guest VMs to talk to the host, and then we can make the host a NAT server so it can NAT guest VM traffic to the VPC. Second thing to note is when launching the Hyper-V VMs, it's important to make sure that VHD files are not saved on the instance store volumes, as they will be removed from the host when we stop and start. With that, let's get to the demo section. So to run Hyper-V, I'm going to click on AMIs from the EC2 console. And I'm going to choose public images and set the owner as Amazon images, and I'm just going to search with Hyper-V keyword. And I'm going to choose the latest one, click launch. This is here, the only option I have currently is i3 metal. That's currently the only instance type that supports bare metal. I click on configure instance details. The rest is pretty much just following the wizard. I'm going to leave everything default here. I'm going to increase the size of my root volume so I can launch guest VM there. Give it a name. And everything else default. And hit launch. Okay, now the instance is passing health check, and I've already made an RDP connection to it. So if I open Server Manager, you can see that the Hyper-V role is already installed on this server. And next thing I want to do is configure networking for my Hyper-V VMs. So I'm going to open PowerShell. And basically this command, it creates a new internal Hyper-V switch called Hyper-V switch, actually. And if I open ncpa.cpl here, you can see that basically also it creates a virtual network, a virtual NIC, which is connected to that virtual switch. Now, next thing I want to do is I'm going to assign an IP address to this virtual Ethernet adapter. And so that will be the default gateway for my guest VMs. To do that, I need to run a command. So actually, I have them here. So basically, first I need to get the net adapters. Okay, and remember this interface index. I'm going to, in my next command, I'm going to use that. So, which basically just assigns the IP address. I could do this using GUI as well, but just, you know, I want to do it in PowerShell. Interface 13, and I'm specifying the 192.168.0.1. That's the range that I chose for my Hyper-V guest VMs. It needs to be different from the VPC address range. So here VPC address range is 172.31, and I'm choosing this one. Okay, hit enter. The IP address was assigned to this NIC. Next thing, I need to turn my host into a NAT server. So the command for that, and all these commands, they are available on a blog called Running Hyper-V on EC2 bare metal. So I'm gonna run this. This is the range that I chose for my guest VMs, and I hit enter. Okay, the NAT server is also set up on the host. Next thing I want to do is actually set up DHCP server. And the reason for DHCP, because when I launch Hyper-V guest VMs, I want to make sure that they are able to get IP address automatically. Otherwise, I have to assign it manually. So I'm going to open Server Manager. And from here, I'm going to click on Add Roles. Just give it a little time. Okay, Add Roles. Next. Next, I'm going to choose DHCP server and hit next. Let's make sure that the DHCP tools are also in here. Okay, DHCP server tools, hit next, next, install. Okay, now the installation is finished. I'm going to also make sure the configuration is complete. Okay, next I'm going to click on DHCP and click on DHCP Manager. That's where I want to specify basically an address pool for the guest VMs and also specify the DHCP options for them. So I'm going to right click on IPv4, click on New Scope, and just guest IP range as the name. IP range, okay, and then hit next. I'm going to specify the range that we chose, 169.168.0. I'm going to start from 10 up to 20, for example. 8.0.20, and that's my subnet mask. Hit next. I don't have any exclusion, leaving the default, the DHCP lease time. And yes, I want to configure DHCP options. So for the default gateway, this is the IP address that we specified on the NIC for the Hyper-V vSwitch. And 01, this is gonna basically work as the default gateway, and it's gonna do a NAT using host. And then for the DNS server, automatically actually it added 172.31.02. This is the DNS server, basically the Amazon provided DNS server, which is the second IP address of your VPC. Actually, that's fine. I want to specify that even for my guest VMs. And I hit next. I don't have any Win server. Yes, I want to activate the scope and hit finish. With that, all the networking setup for my guest VMs are ready, and I'm going to install my new guest VM now. To install my first Hyper-V VM, I need to download the ISO for the guest operating system. I've already downloaded an Ubuntu live server here, which I'm going to install as a guest VM. So next, I'm going to open Hyper-V console. So from start, just searching for Hyper-V Manager. And then here I'm going to choose new virtual machine. Next, just call it Ubuntu. And this is the part that's important. We don't want to save anything on the instance store volumes. By default, it's going to save it here. I'm fine with that. I'm going to leave everything default here. Memory also, I'm going to leave it to default. This is the Hyper-V switch that I created. And I'm going to leave my VHDX file here. Again, that's on an EBS volume. That's fine. And I'm going to point it to my ISO file, which I just downloaded. And I hit next, and I finish here. Next, I'm going to start, and it's going to show the installation wizard for the Ubuntu. I'm going to pause the video, complete the installation setup, and then I will come back. Okay, now the installation wizard for Ubuntu is finished, and I've logged in to the VM. I just want to show you a couple of things. Like if I do ivconfig here, you can see that it already got the IP address from the DHCP range that we specified, 192.168.0.11. And let's also check the DNS server on this. So if I do a systemd-resolve-status, you can see that also it's pointing to the second IP address of the VPC for DNS server. And let's also verify it to make sure that it has connectivity to the internet. So if I do ping Amazon, we can see that I have a successful ping. With that, we get to the end of this demo. So in this video, I covered how to run Hyper-V on Amazon EC2 bare metal instances. Thank you for watching.